So imagine this delivery room. There's a woman in there, and she's in labor. And her contractions are getting stronger, so she's in a lot of pain now. And in the room also is this big, very kind midwife. And she comes up to the woman and she asks her if she's all right and if she needs any help with her pain management. And the woman, of course, says, yes, give me all you have. And what I'd like now is to have the epidural. That would be great. I want that now. And the midwife smiles and says, no, you don't need the epidural. Everything is going very well here, but I could offer you some touch to alleviate your pain. And the woman is like, no way, I'm not going to have any touch thingy going on there. I want something strong and very invasive. I'd like the epidural, please. I'd like to have that now. But the answer is no, and the woman realizes that this is not going to happen. So she agrees that, okay, she'll try the touch, whatever, but she thinks that maybe, as the touch is not going to help, then she could have the epidural after. So the contraction begins, and it's very painful, so the woman kind of starts rocking back and forth like this. And the midwife comes and hugs her very tightly from behind. Okay. And as the woman rocks, so does the midwife. So they do this rocking together. And the midwife, she also starts to stroke across the woman's belly very rhythmically like this. And she does it in perfect synchrony with the woman's breathing. So they do this elephant dance kind of in the delivery room. And then the contraction subsides. And the woman didn't ask to have the epidural after that. The labor progressed, and she gave birth with touch as her best friend. So that dancing woman was me 6 years ago, being such a skeptic, even though on that day I had already been a researcher of the human tactile system for 8 years. I didn't realize what an impact touch could have. I'm still beginning to realize that now. And then the midwife had to leave the room, and she said, now your husband can do this. And I was like, oh, Jesus. But he was okay. He was okay. So touch is very present in our everyday lives. And to illustrate that, you can think about how awkward a few situations would be if we didn't have touch. So this little boy has a scraped knee, he's crying, climbs onto your lap for comfort. But how do you comfort a kid if you can't touch it? Or if you're in healthcare, maybe you have a patient that's very worried about an upcoming procedure. How do you induce a sensation of comfort in a patient without touch? Touch comes in handy in that situation. Or maybe you're simply at the airport. You're going to pick up a friend. It's your best buddy in the whole world. You haven't seen her for weeks and weeks. So the doors open, you see each other, maybe there is some running going on, and you meet, and there's no touch. It doesn't make any sense. But the most striking example of how important touch is what would you do to a newborn baby if you couldn't touch it? How do you form that long-lasting attachment and bond to the infant if you can't touch it? That touch that you need early on to be able to handle stress later in life, function socially, develop normally, and perhaps survive. So that touch to the newborn is the most important touch you'll ever give. But I say that touch is present in the everyday life, but it's not what it used to be. We've promoted so much being strong individuals these days that our social networks are weaker. In the big cities in Europe, more than half of the households only contain one person. People are lonely. Loneliness is actually a serious health hazard. Loneliness is as associated with mortality as being severely obese, an alcoholic, or a smoker. So that's not encouraging. But did you hear about Harry Harlow? Many of you possibly did. He was an American psychologist in the 50s and 60s, and he studied monkey behavior. But to have a lab full of monkeys, that's like really, really expensive. So he had this idea. He would breed his own animals. Good idea. But in order for the animals to stay healthy and not spread disease, he thought it would be great if you could rear them in isolation. So what he did is that as a monkey was born, he took it from its mommy and put it alone in a cage. And it was successful. Because the monkeys, they grew up to be big, strong monkeys, and they didn't spread disease. On the other hand, they were emotionally severely disturbed. They were aggressive animals. They didn't work together with other animals. They couldn't tolerate stress. And the thing is that at first, the researchers were baffled. They didn't know what was wrong. So it took some cruel monkey experiments for the Western world to realize that no, food is not enough for a baby to develop normally. We need that closeness to other individuals for normal development, for being able to handle stress later in life, to form relationships to other human beings. So now we know very well that animals that are separated early from their moms, they have a lower tolerance to pain, they can't take stress, they don't work with other animals, they don't even know how to take care of their own offspring. Touch, it seems, now that I'm telling you the story, it connects you somehow. Touch helps you to form these bonds and attachments. So did you ever spend time on public transportation where you were seated in this awkward position for 30 minutes because you did not want to touch the person in the seat next to you? That's because touch connects you, and some people you just don't really want to be connected to, and therefore you will avoid touching them. And opposite to that, think about how fans behave as their idol might pass them by, stretching out their hands, desperate for this brief moment of touch. Because if they manage to touch their idol for a second, it means that they have some sort of a connection to them. And that would be great. Like Bono. So as a brain researcher, I believe that all our conscious experiences of touch takes place someplace in the brain. But it doesn't start there. It starts out in the skin. So your nervous system is like a tree. It has trunks, and then it branches out in these tiny, tiny little twigs. In each twig is a nerve fiber. And those nerve fibers are of all different kinds. Some of them describe the physical features of the touch, like is it sharp, rounded, rough, smooth? And most research that's been performed on the human touch system deals with those afferents, or those nerve fibers. But that's not the whole story, because every time you're touched, that touch also changes your emotional status. It changes how you feel. So for every touch, you could say that, yeah, that touch made me feel good. Or it made me feel secure or safe, loved, sexy, disgusted, or maybe socially connected to someone or some people. And those emotional aspects of touch are being transmitted through specialized nerve fibers in the skin, and we call them CT afferents, or CT nerve fibers. C, because they belong to a family of nerve fibers that are very thin and evolutionary old, and T, because they respond to touch. You have lots and lots of them in your skin. All primates do. In our research lab, we can tap onto single nerve fibers like these, and we can eavesdrop on their traffic from the skin up to the brain. And through this method, we know a lot about them. So we know that they like 3 things. They require 3 things. They want touch to the skin to be light. Second, they want the touch to be moving and not standing still. Not too fast, not too slow, but pretty slow. And third, they want the temperature to be right, around 30 degrees, which just happens to be human skin temperature. So if you take those 3 facts together, the lightness, the slow movement, and the temperature, you just have the human-to-human emotional pleasant caress. So it seems like we have a system of specialized nerve fibers to signal these emotional aspects of touch. And the fact that these fibers are processed in your brain in areas that deal with emotion and social behavior, that just strengthens that fact even more. So through the signals from these nerve fibers, you get the pleasant sensation that you can get when you're being caressed by another person. You get the sensation of comfort when you're being comforted as a kid or being taken care of as a baby. It's through these nerve fibers that you connect and form relationships to other people. Think about it, you could fight off loneliness through this touch. So it is through these fibers that you connect with your children, that your children feel safe and taken care of and have a better life where they can tolerate stress, for example. It's through these signals that you can form relationships with the people that you like or the ones that you're in love with. And it's through touch that you can induce comfort in someone that's been handed a basket full of the sourness of lonely lemons. So what I'd like for you to do is to get out there, get closer to people, get connected, and simply touch more.